Alrighty. Not that it really matters, because I don't think anybody's going to tune in, but I'm not sure how long this one's going to be. Not feeling so great, and I've been kind of a little fevery and tired lately. I explain why I'm yawning so much. This is chapter 8 of Violet Prelude, and it is 12,396 words. Ideally, I'd make that in 2 parts, but I think it might even be 3 because I want to get started tonight, even though I'm not feeling 100%. So we'll see how far we get before I have to call it. Might not be far, honestly, because I don't even think I was going to make it to 10 o'clock. So yeah, we're starting early. Anyway, let's go. Celis, oh god, it's already bad. Let's see, how many pages is this? Maybe we'll just do 1 page at a time tonight. I'm so hot. I had to turn my fan off because obviously it was going to mess with, Alright, 1 page isn't very far. But I think that's what we're going to aim for, because I am, like I said, I'm not feeling great, and I'd rather not push it. That one looks kind of short. How long is all of this stuff? I see we have some graphic issues we're going to have to play around with. There's no Horrocks in here, and it looks like Kitex is already colored, so... Okay, so we'll do the first... If I can get through the first 2 pages, we'll do that. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Either I need to go back on energy drinks or something, because, man... Oof. I mean, it also probably is because I'm getting sick. I haven't left the house. My brother runs errands, and my dad's still working, which is cool. Yeah, I'm at home. But I haven't physically left. I was about to get a job when I started getting kind of sick, and I've been feeling really bad for the past couple of days, but this is the first time it's been quite this bad. I don't know if it's corona. I mean, I guess that's the likely thing, but I don't know, and I don't think I can really afford to get tested. I mean, I have insurance, but I don't know. I just don't want to. If it's not corona, I might be compromised in some way, and I don't want to go out and get it if, I went on a handful of times in masks and gloves every time. Mask and gloves every time. God, I am so hot, but I am not turning the fan on because it'll ruin my audio. I'm just delaying this. So, I'm gonna yawn again. I'm so sorry. Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay. Sorry. Silas sat in the center of the chamber. A stone table and chairs had been relocated for his convenience. He held in his hand a steaming liquid that barely managed to warm his hands in the frozen cavern. Okay. Every time he felt himself about to spiral into fear and insanity, he focused on the feeling of something in his back pocket. His phone. He was afraid to see if it was even in one piece. Heck, even if it wasn't, he knew it was useless here. Still, it somehow served as a comforting connection to home, even though it was so far away. Kitex swayed from side to side across the table, a humanoid head and torso on a long, thick tendril leading back into darkness. I see you and my tendril have arrived in one piece. I did miss the little stump. Kitex tried to softly break the silence. It's my tendril now, Silas replied defensively. You gave it to me. The horned woman sat to the side, her arms folded firmly across her chest, a pure white staff leaning against her chair. This is going to be where we figure out how I botched sorry. Because that wasn't that long ago. This chapter was 2 weeks later. That's what the schedule was. I don't know how I could have messed sorry up. Maybe I don't mess her up here. Maybe I mess her up when Silas brings her home. I'm just bringing out my notebook just so I can be ready to blah, 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 blah. I've got so many notes about this RP thing, and I don't know what to do. It's like getting no traction. I don't know if I mean, I'm not just doing it for traction, but I just thought it'd be a really cool thing. And so far, there's been like not even passing interest. It's alright, I can't complain. Everything, I'm gonna plan to complain, I guess. Every time I try to do something, I don't know if it's how I do it or what kind of time frames I set up, because this was a little sudden. I've only been advertising hard for 2 weeks. But I figured in 2 weeks maybe I'd get a couple people who wanted to play or something like that. I just, it's not ideal. Any of what's going on is not ideal. But I'm hoping once I get a book, I'll maybe things will start changing. I mean, I don't really even talk to anybody, because that's also part of my problem. I talk to people who show an interest, but it's not like I reach out very often to people in general. I just never know what to do or say, or what's considered acceptable and what isn't. My God, I'm hot. But it is what it is, and I have to move my microphone off to one side. Hold on, I'm just gonna mute myself for a second while I relocate it. Alright, it's off to the right. It's probably like too far away. And there's actually a reason I turned off the cam. One moment. Yeah. I'm doing this in my skivvies. And since I have the camera on this panel, I still have my camera's still technically on. You just can't see it. And thank God, because I look like shit. Anyway, things to watch out for is how I handle sorry, because she should not be a surprise, or at least not a bold, new, unheard of surprise. The horned woman sat to the side, her arms folded across her chest, a pure white staff leaning against her chair. I forget the staff a lot, and it's kind of important to her character, but like 90% of the time I describe her, she doesn't even have her staff on her. Thin golden chains wove their way through her horns. From the tips hung brilliant violet stones, carved in such a way that they perfectly reflected the world around them. Silas had trouble both looking at her and avoiding staring. Sara's horns didn't come out of her forehead like antlers, but, well, they are antlers technically, I've realized, but grew out of her eye sockets, grew out of round sockets where her eyes should have been. It was both horrifying and uncontrollably fascinating at the very same time. Though the pout on her lips and the overall frustration etched in her every feature served as a very grounding contrast to her horned eyes. Her eyes can't emote. She doesn't have eyes. So, how can an emotion contrast something that doesn't show emotion? There we go. There, better. Sorry, my pen. Silas didn't want her to feel ignored, but he had no idea how to speak to her. Since he'd arrived, he'd been largely silent, only answering Kai-Tex's requests with nods or simple monosyllabic responses. She was clearly irritated, yet she was never far from her lord. Clearing his throat, Silas had to try to break up the tepid sounds. I'm actually getting a little weirded out by this camera light, so we're gonna fully delete this off this. I'll just remove it later if I feel like using it. Yeah, get rid of it. Go away. What the hell are there? Hold on. Oh, it's on here too. There, it's gone. Okay, back to here. Sorry about that. That camera light being on was just, I mean, yeah. Who knows? When he wants to hack your camera, they're gonna hack your camera, I guess. But the light was just being, that's always uncomfortable. But my camera's not even good. Clearing his throat, Silas had to try. I'm so sorry. This might even go on for very long. Silas didn't want her to feel ignored, but he had no idea how to speak to her. Since he'd arrived, she'd been largely silent. She'd been largely silent, only answering Kaitax's requests with nods or simple monosyllabic responses. She was clearly irritated, yet she was never far from her lord. Okay, I read that. I'm not functioning properly. Clearing his throat, Silas had to try to break up the tepid silence. You look like a snake wearing my top half as a puppet. He sipped the bitter substance that filled the stoneware cup he clung to for dear life. Indeed, I could have been more human for the occasion, but no, Silas waved at him. It's better this way. What's that attached to? Silas motioned toward the long tendril that propped up Kaitax's facade. Oh, back to my body. This is, quite literally, a puppet. Silas gave a snorting chuckle. I did not think the sight of a gigantic mass of writhing tendrils would be a very pleasant thing to experience upon your arrival. I wanted to be hospitable, but not upsetting. You've done that perfectly. A beamy grin crossed Kaitax's jagged features. The silence they shared was a calming, peaceful one. Silas knew he had no reason to feel this comfortable, yet he did. So how does this work? Straight to business, then. Kaitax popped his collar. Very well. I would begin by urging you to gather your strength. Why? Silas scoffed. I say why weird. Why bother? We already know what's going to happen to me. Want to skip the fluff and get right to the damn point? Kaitax leaned back, his arm tendrils weaving between themselves. His glowing gaze turned to the horned woman. Sorry. No. Sorry, please. My lord, I will not be leaving your side, not so long as this mortal remains in your presence. Sorry. Kaitax laughed. It was a booming, cacophonous sound that echoed off the stone walls like 1,000 voices of infinite timbre calling out at the same time. I believe I am more than capable of subduing a mortal should the need arise. Sorry's lips pursed tighter. Sorry. My lord, this is ridiculous. She stood up, slamming the flat of her hands onto the table. You love this mortal so much? She flung her clawed hand towards Silas. Then do as he says. Get to the point. Time is of the essence, and your bizarre appeal to civility is entirely unnecessary. How did I describe her up here? I'm just curious. I call her a woman. Yay! Confirmation that a cat came inside. I call her a woman. She's not a woman. I don't want to say the horned female. Like, that's fucking bizarre. I'm gonna call her a girl. Not 100% comfortable with that, but how did I describe her in the last chapter? Hold on. We're actually gonna go back a second. Excuse me. Hold on. There you go. 7. Sympathy for the devil. Scroll down. Yeah, we really didn't describe her at all, did we? Just a lone figure. Sorry. Yeah, there's no actual description of her in this. That's fine. Alright, back to where we were. Silas leaned as far away from the table as he could. Sorry, I will not. I will only ask one last time before I force you to leave. Kaitex's tone had shifted from lighthearted to something far darker and intimidating. You would never, Sari snarled in reply. Sorry. Her horns turned on Silas. What is so special about you, You're frail, weak, untempered in the way of the void. You sit here as though you are an equal to a god. Sorry. I've spent my life in service to Lord Kaitex, yet you are his chosen champion. Sorry. The Cataxian bit her lip. Without another word, she spun around, taking hold of her staff. Without another word, she spun around, taking hold of her staff, and glided out of the chamber on footsteps that seemed barely able to touch the ground. That might be Ronani, and I also feel like there's some tense areas here, but in my current condition, I don't know how to fix it, so I'm going to leave it for potentially an editor to catch. I just can't right now. That one's a little confusing. Without another word, she spun around, took hold of her staff, and glided out of the chamber on footsteps that seemed to barely touch the ground. Okay, so I think that fixed it. They're all past tense now. Once the sound of the stone door to the chamber sliding shut echoed around them, Kaitex seemed to relax. I apologize, Silas. Silas let himself lean forward again. Difficult. Kaitex concluded as he leaned his arm on the table. How come you never... Oh, that's wrong. Here we go. We get to do a big rewrite here. We're going to just rewrite the whole damn section. So this is all being... I might be able to just get up to there. I guess now we're pretty much just doing writing ASMR. Should rename the frickin' stream writing ASMR. You know, I'm gonna do that some night. Next time I have to start the next chapter. I'm just gonna fucking start an ASMR stream. See who I can lure in. I'll have to work on my gentle whispering. We get the idea. I don't know if you can hear that kind of thunking. That's my cat assaulting the banister outside. I'm pretty sure it's my cat. It could be one of her brothers, but... This is awkward. Let's actually bunk back a little bit. Yeah, we're probably only going to get through the first page because this needs a serious rewrite. Let's go back to where it started getting a little... So that's sorry. Kaitax hummed a bit. Indeed, that is sorry. How old is she? 15, 16? Kaitax thought a moment. Centuries? Yes, thereabouts. Perhaps a bit older, since I am uncertain of how time will convert between our worlds. Centuries? So thousands of years old? Kaitax nodded. Sorry is trapped in that body. She is much older than she appears, and she has the experience to match. Hang on. Hello? Yeah. Whatever, just do the whole line. There we go. I think she hates me, Salas chuckled. She does not hate you. She simply does not understand the nature of our connection. You didn't explain this to her? Salas raised an eyebrow. I did. At least, I tried to. I'm uncertain if there was anything I could have said that would have changed her mind around all of this. And I'm supposed to just take her back to Earth and do what? Kaitax sighed. I'm hoping you two will at least find some kind of familiarity between yourselves before then. That's not the word I want. Oh, God. Why do I have to be so fucking psych? And I'm supposed to just take her back to Earth and do what? Give her a shelter but keep my distance? That's not exactly going to work if she's going to be staying with us. Kaitak sighed. I'm hoping you two will at least find some kind of familiarity between yourselves before then. Silas sighed. When Kaitak told him about Sari, he wasn't sure what to expect. It had nothing to do with her looks, but her outright hatred for him. He knew that was going to be a hurdle not easily crossed. She is. Kaitak's tendril slithered over his face. She is my family. Silas's eyes widened. Sorry, she is part of me. She may as well be my blood. I didn't expect you to care so much for someone. For what it's worth, you barely know me, Silas. We have haunted each other for years, but how long have we been able to actually converse? As for sorry, Kaitek slouched back on his supporting tendril. She is my daughter. A wave of confusing emotions washed over Silas. I adopted her when no one else would have her. They, the uncivilized swine who grew fat on my energy, sought to destroy her. I intervened. I laid claim to her being and her life. In doing so, I granted her a portion of my strength. Sorry, in the technical terms of the void, she is my thrall. Your servant? Kaitek shook his head. We do not operate that way. Her mind is her own at all times. We merely share a neural link. We don't need that at all times. It's only open when we choose to open it. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. This is a lot. I had no idea what she was so important to you. I figured she was just some kind of servant you were fond of. Okay, I think we can salvage this. Hold on, just shifting real quick. I had no idea she was this important to you. I figured she was just some kind of servant that you were fond of. She is far more than that. Silas sighed. Let me break this down. Real quick. Silas gave a deep huff as he sat up against the table's edge. She sees you as a father figure. Kaitek seemed hesitant to respond. You've protected her all your life, kept her safe, yes? And now you're on the brink of death. Kaitek hummed ever so slightly as he slowly withdrew from the table. And the only solution was for you to bring some outsider into the mix. Kaitek seemed to deflate completely. Everything about him sagged unnaturally as a look of shame and despair weaved its way across his already warped features. A weak muttering sound came from his crumpled form. I have no choice. I do not wish to die. If I die, sorry. She, Kaitek. Why didn't... Hold on, I figured I knew what I was going to do there. Okay, so this whole segment needs to get reread. Silas sighed. Let me break this down real quick. Silas gave a deep. Let me break this down. Let me break this down real quick. Silas gave a deep puff as he sat up against the table's edge. She sees you as a father figure. Kaitak seemed hesitant to respond. You've protected her all her life, kept her safe? Yes. And now you're on the brink of death. Kaitak hummed ever so slightly as he slowly withdrew from the table. And the only solution for you was for you to bring some outsider mortal into the mix. Kaitek seemed to deflate completely. Everything about him sagged unnaturally as a look of shame and despair weaved his way across his already warped features. A weak, muttering sound came from his crumpled form. I have no choice. I do not wish to die. If I die, sorry. Kaitax. This can't be easy for her. Let's make it. I mean, it isn't. This can't be easy for her. I mean, it isn't easy for either of you. Or I'm gonna make it for any of us. But for her, there's no way around it. You're her father, and I, some otherworldly stranger, am your only hope of survival. Kaitax continued to shrink away from the table. What a cruel turn of events for everyone. There you go. Well, this sucks. Kaitax's tendril wove and unwove compulsively as he searched for a response. He knew none of this was ideal. He knew that Sari may never be won over by Silas. But Silas was his last hope. She had to understand that both their lives hinged on him, and that was where he realized how she truly felt. I think I understand. I'm ashamed to admit that it took me this long. Her life is bound to mine. If I die, she dies. She is willing to suffer that fate, but I, the god who has lived long before her, do not. Not for myself, but for her. I do not want her to die. She does not like the idea of surviving on the generosity of an outsider. We're gonna put an end there. And she does not like the idea of surviving on the generosity of an outsider. And that is what this is, an act of generosity from a near complete stranger. So that's why you kept saying you didn't want to die. For some reason I thought it seemed a bit off. Coming from some godlike being. But it wasn't about you, was it? Kaitax closed his eyes tightly. It was about her. It was from the beginning, wasn't it? The Void Lord bit his lip. Why didn't you just tell me all of this from the start? I did not want to complicate an already complicated situation. Kaitax, come on. You knew about my family. You know I'm a parent. You even got to talk to them. Why didn't you let Sari and I ever talk? Hell, you kind of sprung her entire existence on me in the 11th hour. Why? Why hide her for that long? Kaitax practically deflated into himself. Are you ashamed? Ashamed of Sari? The Void Lord bolted upright. How dare you? Are you ashamed of your offspring? Silas shook his head. That's not what I meant. Then what would I be ashamed of? Kaitax slithered toward the table. What could I possibly be ashamed of? Needing outside help? When it's clear you have someone here who... Kaitax leaned back on the thick tendril that supported his humanoid frame. You are correct. Sari has long been more than willing to make that sacrifice that would ensure my survival, but she is part of me. We would both die. And I could never ask her to make such a horrific sacrifice. Especially when it would do nothing, especially when it would have no meaning. But an outsider, someone you don't know and have no feelings for? Kaitax shook his head. You do not understand, Silas. I do have feelings for you. Anything greater than how, let's say, a chef would love his spatula? Excuse me? A tool, Kaitax. I'm just a tool to you, aren't I? A means to an end. I die, you and Sari get out of this hell. That's what this is all about. That's what this was all about, wasn't it? That's what this is all about. Isn't it? That's why you hid her. You didn't want me to understand what the risk... What... What was at risk on your end and how far you'd go to protect that? And what of the reverse? Reverse? You and your family, Silas. Sorry and I are immortal. We lived over countless lifetimes. You and yours will know nothing but a fraction of the time we have existed. Do you truly not think that I have considered countless times since we've become aware of each other that you have far more at stake than either of us do? What? Death is far more a danger to you than it is to us. Sire and I long ago accepted that with my decline, both of us will simply cease to exist. We will not die, we will simply vanish. From time and space, gone. In death, you leave behind mortals who care for you. Is that not a greater risk than our risk of nothingness? I'm not sure When things of the void perish, they are not remembered or maintained. They are forgotten. Neither mortal nor void spawn... You're getting me that speech. Neither mortal nor spawn remember what is lost. Memory is a very mortal experience. Your mortal companions would remember you. Is this some kind of weak emotional ploy? Silas scoffed. Daniel is intelligent enough to understand what's at stake, and Jaren isn't a fool. Neither of them would waste their lives waiting for me. They'd move on. Remember, hopefully. But stand around waiting forever? Hell no. They'd fight their own fights without me. That's life, Kaitax. Life isn't stagnant in memories, but moving on from them. My death has the exact same weight as yours. None. But the death of your child. Everything suddenly clicked into place. It wasn't about Kaitax and Silas. Is this redundant from what I wrote up here? I already made that revelation. Do you need to go, Blue Regard? Are you getting in your bed? Oh, he's just getting in his bed. Oh, good boy. Yeah, the cat. Might be redundant, but a little bit of rephrasing. You wish to protect your son. I wish to protect my daughter. We cannot do that lest we sacrifice ourselves and become something wholly different. Shit. You know as well as I that we are weak. Weakness may be relative between us, but for the lives we have lived and the people we have cared for, we are fading. Silas sat back in his chair, mind racing. I did not tell you about sorry sooner, because I wanted the risk to stay between us. I know in your heart you always considered your child. I know that with every interaction you had him in mind, yet you did not express those worries to me. It was far easier for me to reach out to you and yours than for you to reach back in reply. The more I saw of your life, the more I saw of myself. The more I felt your fears, the more I noticed my own. The more I became aware of my own. What good would bringing sorry into the mix have done? Our fates are one and the same. Was that happening before? No, this one just slipped. So if I choose to walk away, to leave. Kaitax sighed. We'd both perish eventually. Though I would ask you to forgo any guilt. I was eternal. Sorry has lived in your countless lifetimes. We have lived long enough. So I think this is the most overhaul we've had to do on any chapter. Yet you still don't want to die. Would you? We have lived in this prison for our entire conscious existences. We have lived in this prison for the entirety of our conscious existence. Says, okay. We know nothing more than this dead world, Silas. You would not only save your lives, Save our lives, but free us from this mortal hell. Gonna do that. A second take, sorry. Silas, you would not only save our lives, but free us from this mortal hell. So I'm the chosen one, Silas snorted. By accident. No weave of fate or prophecy, merely a fluke in the ebb and flow of time and space. You mean I'm not special? Silas laughed. Kaitak shook his head. On the surface, no. You're rather ordinary mortal, but somehow this burden has fallen to you. So I fully understand that you may still choose to leave, but at the same time, I would ask for something rather delicate of you. And what would that be? Kaitak wove his arms together again. I would ask that you try to find familiar grounds with her. What could I possibly have in common with an immortal? Void Witch. Void Witch? I believe she's an Archon, technically. Sorry. Is an Archon. Alright, so quick breakdown of hierarchies of the Void. There's a couple different standings for mortals in the Void, in relation to the Void. One is obviously food, the other one is spawn, and the other one is thrall, and the other one is Archon. A thrall is a slave. They don't technically have any free will. They can have the illusion of free will, but on a moment's notice, without a single thought, they're immediately back and beholden to their masters. Food is food. Spawns are mortals that have been drawn into the void and have been warped into spawns. Not all spawns are mortals, but many spawns were mortals at one point. And there are archons, which are mortals who have tapped into a void lord specifically and have gained a near equal, I'll put that in quotes, standing with them. They're very powerful. They maintain most of their free will. That's basically the Void Lord will accept a human or a handful of humans to be their direct servants. Sorry, I'm yawning again. And those servants are allowed a lot more free will because there's more trust and understanding between the Lord's will and what the mortal's will. They align. And that's what Sarah is. She's not technically a thrall because she has much more freedom. B, her objectives align directly with Kaitak's, either by forced situation or just that's how life is. And they're also a lot emotionally closer than a typical lord / thrall situation. So while he called her a thrall back at the beginning, she's technically not. She's an archon. And again, that means that she does preserve a lot more free will. And he respects her to have that level of free will. It's a very lucrative position to have. And there's only ever been a handful of them ever because Void Lords hate mortals in general. That's just the rule of the land. So if immortals shows either enough loyalty, enough autonomous loyalty without thralldom, they usually ascend into the position of kind of power where the Lord will grant them a portion of their own power. And the thing is, in the next line, that is her class of spawn. So once you've been exposed to the mist long enough, whether or not your body mutates or changes or becomes an actual thing of the void, you've become tainted and cursed, like we called it, or I think later on it's called a cursed, or did I call it a curse? No, corruption. I call it corruption. So the process is corruption, and the more corrupt you are, the less you can genetically identify with your native species. You become kind of this middling, half void spawn, half, I guess we'll just say human, half human. You know, it starts screwing up your genetics. You may not externally change, but if somebody were to, I don't know, test your blood or take any kind of DNA sample, it would show that you are pretty thoroughly drenched in this substance and you identify physically somewhere between the void and humanity. So in Sari's case, she is actually the only Cataxian who is both who is a spawn. The Cataxians didn't make it far enough as a species to all become spawns. They kind of, just getting a little ahead. Whatever. Here's some lore. So the Cataxians, and this is spoilers too, were once called the Collians. They were on the surface of the world, and they were like a proto-species of sorts. And they didn't get by on technology. They got by on sort of, well, magic. They tapped into the void through some series of rituals or something like that. I don't know whether or not Mother was involved. She might have been, because this was corresponding around the time when she was really wanted to get out of the void again. That's another story, how she got in there in the first place and how Father came to be. Oh god, it's a horrible story. But so this entire mortal species pretty much built their entire civilization around the idea of utilizing the void and the energy that it generates. And the mist, they welcomed the mist. They volunteered the mist onto their world because it was a source of infinite power. And so their entire advanced, quote, like alternate advance, they had technology, but it was different. Obviously, it wasn't powered by electricity or oil or anything like that, or even the sun. It was powered all completely by this mist substance. So they of themselves were pretty much the denizens of the void at this point. They lived for centuries or millennia, but the catch was they were all that way almost from the get-go. When they started calling themselves Collians, that they were already invested in the void, which they didn't quite register as the void. They just saw that this substance came through a hole they managed to cut through space and time, and I wasn't even sure they were space and time dimensions or just in their world. It was almost a primitive understanding of what they'd done. But little did they know that they became a species of the void, and that's not normal because there's no unifying species of the void other than the lords, and the lords are technically not even a species. They're all cuttings of the same thing. It's just so they eventually, the void was obviously to them, the void suddenly realizes, well, doesn't realize, but to the Collians, the void suddenly realizes that this is happening. So somebody's sent to make an attempt to talk to them, but they knew that wasn't going to work. Nope, everybody knew that wasn't going to work. Their entire civilization was hinged on this whole void thing. And the Collians, rather than even really try to work with the void, pretty much said, fuck off, this is our birthright, we've had it forever. And the void's like, well, it came from us, and you can't have it. And an eternity to the mortals was, and they were not immortal. They did live lives, very long lives, but they did eventually die. That was inevitable. And so, basically a war broke out. And obviously you would think the void would be the trouncing victor, but it didn't work out that way because the Collians were also technically a subsect of the void, so they had very similar strengths. And the war was a mess. Weird abominations were created to wage war against each other. Both sides were making these abominations of different kinds. Void lords were merging with mortals to create these horrific things, and people were thralled against their will, and spawns were made out of prisoners, and it was a bad situation. And the head of it all was only with one person. Pretty much, it would be all run by one person. And when that one person was, quote, defeated and imprisoned, hint, hint, the void didn't so much give up as they made a strategic withdrawal. Because what they had done was they had ravaged the surface of the planet so badly that it was uninhabitable. And as described in the last chapter, they pretty much haunted it with these spectral tendrils that would forever just destroy anything that moved on the planet's surface. So it forced the Collians underground. and they were gifted by another certain someone the ability to convert their prisoner into a source of energy. Thus, they lived down in the abyss, down in the halls, carved of stone, for more countless generations. However, they were now corrupted even worse because they were feeding directly off of a Void Lord. And this is a very bad thing to do. So, where they were once a cohesive, tainted species, they were now individually corrupting. As I mentioned, or I might not have mentioned yet, but by the time their existence came to an end, the Cataxians, now they were calling themselves Cataxians, were no longer had any genetic similarities between themselves. There was nothing to say these two people are Cataxians other than the fact that they still called themselves that and kind of sort of vaguely remembered their origin. They retained certain parts of being mortal. They retained a dual reproductive system. Two, I'm not going to call them genders, because there is no gender to be involved. It's just two individuals of a different, I'm going to just call it a caste, I guess, but they weren't like more greater or lesser. They were just classifications. And how it would work is there was a census that was very meticulously tracked. Like when a pairing of these two different beings, these two different types of beings came together, and it wasn't something you could see. There was no dimorphism. It was just kind of more intention. One would have the proclivity to want to bear the offspring. The other one would want the proclivity to donate half of their existence, basically, to it to make sure it would be born correctly. So one person pretty much sacrifices half of themselves, not their genetics, half of themselves, to create this other being that would be gestated and given birth to. And what happens is before this event occurs, the couple would have to approach the census, and the census would say, you must give birth to this. Okay, we are short on these. You must give birth to one of these. So basically, you chose its intention, I guess, is it's leaning in the reproductive cycle. Didn't always stick. I mean, actually, it had to stick. Once you were identified, you had to stay that way. That was pretty much it. And what happened with Sari was, her parents were told they needed, I called them ash and glass. Parents were told they needed a glass. Parents didn't want a glass, they wanted an ash, because in the event that ashes don't reproduce, they are still very useful at working. They tend to be stronger and less cerebral, but they work hard. And there was always more need for people to dig out more holes as their society is expanding, so they figured they would be better off if they had an ash. So they went against the census and they had an ash, and the problem was then that the census had been violated and they were still short on a glass, and they basically took it out on the kid instead of the parents. They tried to... Well, the problem became the ash that was born in ash had the proclivity to want to be a glass, because they were still somewhat accidentally leaning towards where they should have been on the census. But the problem was now an ash that wants to be a glass is utterly useless, because it can be neither. So what happened and there's speculation on whether or not Kaitax was the reason it happened at all. Kaitax pretty much reached out and latched on to this individual and said, hey, look, you exist. You know what you want. They're gonna kill you. You want to come to me and exist by my side. And the ash, identifying as a glass, Sari, basically said, I don't really have a choice if I want to live, and I'd really prefer not to die. So Kaitax opens up the opportunity for her to be Archon. He calls it thralling, but he's not entirely, he's not entirely 100% on his dialogue or his understanding. Sometimes he seems like he knows a lot. Other times he's like blatantly unknowledgeable on anything. And basically his knowledge of the void comes from the Cataxians, and their knowledge of the void comes from the Collians. And the Collians were meticulous note takers and history keepers and record keepers. So they had a good understanding, especially since they interacted directly with it. So what of the Collians' findings made it to Cataxia is basically what told the higher ups, not everybody, because not everybody cared to know or wanted to know or should know, but the higher ups knew the history, and obviously that was relayed to Kaitax in some way. So what he understands is a direct extrapolation of what the Collians learned. And Sari being a once in a lifetime, well, they called her an aberration. Kaitax was like, yeah, perfect, I'll take it. This is perfect. You don't want her, I want her. And at first it was a act of, I guess, a show of dominance, because Kaitax really didn't have a means of communicating or having his will taken seriously. So, I mean, they'd listen, but there was nothing he could do to change anything. He couldn't exactly step up and say, hey, you did that wrong. He would just be able to see that his will was either not being carried out, or wasn't being carried out. So that's where Sari stepped in. Sari became his kind of, his voice. And that's what she was originally called in the original series. She was called Voice, or what was it, Vox Nomine or something like that. She basically, oh, hold on, do you want to go out, Blue? Yeah? Hold on, I gotta let Blue out. One moment. Her original, sorry, he's out now. Poor little guy had to make chirpy noises. But her original role was to be Kaitax's voice, and this was back when their relationship was, not as close as it is now. I guess how it's happened in this version of the story is Kaitax and Sari's relationship is much more matured than it was in the original version, but the story is starting at a much earlier state at Kaitax's and Silas's relationship. And in a weird way, that makes sense, because in the Void, the time tracks very differently. Or because technically, Kalia is in the Void, or it's like on the cusp of the Void. It's pretty much in the Void, and it only remained independent because it still had life on it. And for some reason, the Void never went and cleared it out. Probably because they were ignoring the fact that Kaitax was there. Oh, I didn't finish where that was going. But because Kaitax adopted Sari, gave her part of his power, blah, 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 when the rest of her species basically ceased to exist, they just kind of vaporized. They left behind like traces of their existences. We call them specters later on. And the specters are basically kind of images of themselves towards the end, the last set of reasonable memories. And they materialize and dematerialize throughout the halls, just living their lives. Some of them aren't even in the same time, some of them are at a different time. It's just when they remembered, or when their memories wake up and activate themselves. You got they all are at different points in their lives. It's just whatever they were locked into. So we could say, like, there's only a handful of named ones. You could say, like, Brother Joel was trapped in the moment that everything came to an end, so that's where he was trapped. We can say Brother Tessin was trapped before that. So in this moment now, they both exist at the same time, but they are from different points in time. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to explain. I think I try to explain it later. I think it's in this chapter even. But the Cataxians still exist in a certain capacity, and the whole, I guess, what the hell, we're going spoiler. The whole reason why the story is called them is because in the original story, they came to Earth as refugees. They were still alive and mortal. They're not anymore, obviously. They're immortal, but they're incorporeal, ephemeral, and they come and go, and they know they're. Some of them are aware of their situation, not all of them, but some of them are aware that they are these ethereal beings, mostly the ones who are higher ranking the Brotherhood, and a handful of people who Sorry, well, there's only one person who Sorry was close with, and that person is also somewhat aware of the situation. But what happens is, in this version, is since Silas traveled back to Earth, he basically tore a funnel through the void, and it is prophesized that the Collians would get a new home at some point, and Brother Joel's like, okay, yeah, this is our new home, because there's an argument later on, I guess, between Joel and I think I named him Tessin. I might not have. Maybe I named him Thol. I forgot. But Joel is of the mindset that Kalia forever or Cataxia forever, and Tessin's of the mindset that we gotta die at some point. Obviously, that's the standard dichotomy of, two sides of the whatever. And so Tessin's like, we should just stay here and fade out of existence. Kitax is gone. There's nothing we can do about it. And Joel will say, no, we're going to follow him because he's our life source. B, we're going to inherit a whole new world. So they come through. This happens either by the end of the current arc or the beginning of the next one. They start blowing through, and they quickly realize that the world is not covered in mist. So they can't go everywhere. But their presence is very quickly noted because while mobility in the States was not easy, a lot of people managed to escape. But there's a whole other side of the world that's being covered in this shit, and that would be like Japan, Russia, China. They are getting coated in it, and not everybody can escape, and not everybody has the mobility to do that, and not everybody. And those countries are cutting those people off, basically. They're completely ruling them out. They're saying you don't exist anymore. So basically, Japan's been cut off from the world, saying you don't exist anymore. People who escaped, you escaped. Anybody else, you're done. And so, part of the story is basically unifying all of them, to all these neglected and ignored countries and peoples and shit like that. But the thing with the Cataxians is they realize, or the ones that are hell bent on living out the prophecy of having a new world, realize they can take over more human bodies and control them and use them. And this harkens back to that's the first novel I ever wrote. And so a whole swath of these Cataxians take over unwitting humans that don't want this, and they proclaim themselves the Cataxians. They say, we are here, this is our world, we are gonna take it, and they become the enemy. And that's when the world snaps and says, oh, we have an enemy now. Okay, you are everyone in the void, whether you are the actual Cataxian or not, because they don't see a difference. All of you now are Cataxians. So now there's a dedicated enemy we can fight against. Problem is, it's not easy to kill the Cataxians. You can kill their bodies, but they'll just keep moving on, blah, 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 blah. Then there's also the whole sect of Silas and the non-Cataxian Cataxians. And, but as far as the world is concerned, everybody in the mist, if you walk into the mist, if you weren't in the mist and you go into the mist, you are now a Cataxian. Okay? You don't even have to be there for long. If you walk through that barrier, you are now considered an alien life form and you are considered a threat. So that basically triggers the actual point in time where the world starts giving a shit. Because up until that point, they were happy to not care. Because Horrocks was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He was basically making sure nobody cared. Because that's his modus operandi. He pretty much just keeps everything. It's obvious what's happening. There's bad shit happening. But he makes it so nobody sees a problem with it. So that's when it changes, and that's when Horrocks starts losing control, because now he has a whole other force he needs to contend with. He has Silas on one side, he has the Cataxians on the other, and they're all creating this untold level of chaos. As you can see, the word count has changed. Up or down? Up. So, yeah, there basically turns into three factions. Or, well, Kai Horrocks isn't really a faction. He's just a force. And I don't know if it's obvious, but he eventually signs up to one of the sides. But that's going to be part of his little redemption arc that's going to come. And whenever Xanthus Cantata happens, that'll hopefully be next. Who knows? At this point, we might have to put in the Cataxians next. But that introduces a whole nother level, because then also Tessin comes through and he's of the faction that says, no, we gotta die, but, you know, if Kaitax isn't dead, maybe we won't actually die. And what happens with them is they become, Sorry shapes them bodies out of crystal, and they'll become the Crystalline. Very original name, but they pretty much become an entire race, their entire, not species, but they're just souls in vaguely humanoid shaped crystals. And they can mobilize for the most part, but they're still kind of more sedentary. They can speak, they can exist solidly, but they can't exactly like fight like a human could. They can hold a weapon and stand like a turret, but that's about like it. They're not agile, they're not incredibly mobile, but they have a physical existence which allows them to operate at least at a minimum. And so that's what happens with them. So that's why the story is called the Cataxians, because in the end of the day, everybody in the story is a Cataxian, outclassed by the remainder of their world. The other thing is someone, I'm going to say to the west, over across the Pacific, eventually figures out how to block the mist, and that may or may not have been a Cataxian. And so they pretty much cordoned off this entire section of the world and call it theirs, and use it to build fortresses and start, remapping the world to how they want it to be, and staging basically a war. So you have the war with the Cataxians, you have the war with the Void, and at the end of the day, they are all tied to the Void. So the biggest way to solve the Cataxian problem is to solve the Void problem. But the problem is the Cataxians pose a much more immediate threat. So it's kind of, spoiler alert, not that anybody's watching or paying attention or giving a shit, but the key to it is to get rid of the leader of the opposing faction, who has always been Joel. And, once he's out of the picture, the coalition falls to pieces, and either the Cataxians voluntarily cease to exist, or they join up with the resistance and volunteer to fight against the Void. So that's kind of like just a subplot. And the first boss battle is Harik. The second boss battle is Joel. The third boss battle is I believe Mythics. The second boss battle is the library, or the seedling in the library. The fourth boss battle is Kaitax. Spoiler. The fifth boss battle is the seed on Earth. I lost count. And the sixth is basically that gauntlet thing that they do in anime where you have to beat this X number of bosses, blah blah blah, and it's basically that gauntlet, and that's done in a bid to try to convince the lords to revolt. They really can't, but some of them are convinced to at least try. That's basically Salus has to go into the Void and literally a dream hop until he, either convinces them or doesn't. But all the while, Father is well aware of what's happening. I think the sixth boss then is Mother herself, his mother. And then the seventh and final boss, actually this might be the eighth and final boss, would be Father himself. Oh, sorry. No, the Mother is the boss. Then it's the Conglomerate is the next boss, and the Conglomerate is basically what happens when all of the lords put their cores together. They don't physically get together, but what happens is they have to kill Father, and the only way to kill Father is to put all their energy in one place, and Kithix, or Mother, is basically like, look, I'll just do it. So they all hand over their cores to her, since they are all derivatives of her, and she's a derivative of Father. They're like, okay, let's just, make one glass cannon and just blast them away. But complications, because Kytax isn't a Void Lord anymore at this point. Silas is a Void Lord at this point, but he's not of Father. He is a completely self-actualized being who has no ties to the Void, but he gives his core over anyway, because he figures, whatever, it's a core. Kytax gives his as well, even though he's not a Lord. So everybody's giving their cores to this thing. But what happens with this thing is, because if Silas's core doesn't really mesh, it starts imploding. And it's going to backfire, and nobody knows what's going to happen if it does. They're pretty sure it'll wipe out the entire world, but Kithix is dead set on firing into the void anyway. And the warlords had already accepted they're going to die when this happens, but, including Silas, but because it's backfiring, Silas gets involved, and he basically stops it just long enough for the lords who are still alive, to take their cores back, and each of them takes their core back, except Kithix. Actually, she might take hers last, but the thing is their cores come back far less powerful than they were going in, and he's left with all the raw power, including his own core. Basically, it's all orbiting around his own core, and he is, for all intents and purposes, utterly overwhelmed by this energy, and pretty much bites it. So, Silas, as he is told throughout the story, dies at this point. And this is what we're going with. This is the story we're going with. And what happens is I probably should have earlier talked about that, because there was an early segue about another proto species that made the void, or that proto species is in proto before the Collians. There was, I guess we can go all the way back to the creation story. There was the pillars of creation. They were all basically laws of reality and shit like that. And when mortals came to be, a new law was added called imagination. I called it creativity, but we can call it creativity. Creativity, imagination, mortal creation, whatever. And this pillar became a law, and the other pillars were like, that can't be a law. It's not real. It's real to them, but not to us. But this pillar was passively kind of worshipped by mortals, because they always created, they always made, blah, blah, blah. And so the other pillars got kind of jealous, and they kind of locked that one away and said, you don't need that kind of attention. So they go down and they start getting attention for themselves, saying, I am the pillar of fire, I am the pillar of rock, of stone. And everybody's like, oh my god, there are gods. And they start worshipping them and doing shit. And every so often they'd be stupid enough to mention the one they scuttled away. And that was noted. And eventually they just one day vanished and said, okay, I guess we're done with this. I don't know if they vanished or if they're dead or what, but the one that was scuttled was not forgotten, and was eventually summoned by a particularly cruel individual, and creation has been cut off from, its purpose for a while. So it's here, and it's all like childlike and wonder and shit like that, and basically it gets killed, and in order to ascend this other person to godhood. And this person ascends, he kidnaps someone, and hence Father and Mother are now born. Ta-da! And he takes over the imagination's realm as his own, and it gets corrupted into the void. Ta-da! So fast forward, because Father was born of creation and basically cut part of himself to make Mother, convert her, it basically works that Father has like 2/3 of the power, Mother has 1/3, and then the children have a combined % of both of them together, with the spawns. They're the lords. So what happens is all of the cores have been stripped of this original energy that was a derivative of creation. And Silas basically ascends into almost godhood, but he isn't the god. He has it inside of him, but he's not it. What happens is basically creation wakes up, and creation is pissed because creation remembers what happens and wants revenge. And Kithix is the only one who understands the situation, because she was there when he was killed. It was killed, and she basically talks it down and says, you can't, you're not complete. B, you can't kill him, and somebody else has to do it. And C, blah, if you bother even go, you're going to get killed, and that'll be the end of everything. And she basically sees him as hope, but she doesn't care that Silas is gone, but everybody else gives a shit that Silas is gone, obviously. Most people give a shit. High Tax, Jaren, Daniel specifically, I suppose. And Creation eventually starts trying to figure out what happened, how it came back into existence, and it rationalizes that it's leeching off of something else's life force. And it's like, well, this isn't going to work, because if I keep existing like this, we're both going to die. He's like, I can't live off your power. You're not going to live if I leave. At the end of the day, what happens is he gives Silas temporary control. It gives Silas temporary control. And Silas puts the coalition back together as best he can. And the lords are now, well, they're still powerful, but they're not what they once were. But instead of going into the void to fight Father, he lures Father out of the void. By now, Father had come in and out a couple times through a tendril. And tendrils are basically incarnations of himself that he just sends, I guess, like, hologram or whatever. But it's, a physical thing. You can kill it, but it's not going to do anything to him. Similar to how he uses seedlings. Seedlings are offspring of sorts. They're direct tears from his body that they're sent to a planet to basically act as beacons. And the one on Earth obviously doesn't ever go off. It gets... That's actually a cute subplot. But when he lures Father out, basically he's distracted him. And he's able to get in to basically replace that part of Father that was pulled out in his own mind. And they win from the inside out, basically. Creation and Silas win from the inside out. And I don't know whether or not Father dies. He might or might not. He might either cease to exist, he might not be redeemed, but he might have to face a mortal life or something like that. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen with him? He's the big bad. Big bad in quotes or whatever. He is an asshole either way. So they've reclaimed the void, and Creation immediately starts cleaning it out because it's a terrible place, and he hates what it's become. It hates what it's become. It's not a... There's no gender to this thing. They, them. And basically it turns around and says that, Silas, you did what you had to do. You're done. You can go now. And Silas is like, go where? And he's like, well, I guess you could stay here if you want, but, there's really no place for you. You can't go back because you're not exactly alive anymore, but you could stay here. I don't really want you here because I prefer to be alone. And because Creation's like, I want people to give me, I want to just go back to how it was, where I was just receiving mortals' gifts of creativity. Basically, anytime something was made, it would be, imagination would be aware of it, and it would be come into their sphere of reality. And basically, so everything ever made was in Creation's sphere of influence, aka what became the void. And of course, that had all been cleaned out by Father, so he wants to repopulate his area with things, not people. He doesn't want people. And, so it's like, okay, I can organize your crap if you want. I can just stay on as some kind of servant. And Creation's like, look, I don't really want a servant, but, hey, I have an idea. I'll send you back. I'll give you a body of sorts, and you can go back. But the catch is, you have to physically bring me something unique every couple of years. So he has to make something wholly unique to him or to his family every so often, and he has to bring it back to Creation. And it has to be made specifically with this intention. So basically, Creation's asking for a tithe, saying you can continue to be whoever you want to be, as long as you bring back these gifts every once in a while. And basically, Creation says, "Now get the hell out of my face." And Silas comes back, but the problem with Silas now is he's a raging ball of fire. He's basically Starlight trapped in this weird stony form, and he's not all that physically approachable anymore. I mean, he vaguely looks like himself, but rather than looking human, he literally looks like he's constantly, like, on fire. So he's not, you can't really touch him or deal with him anymore. He's just an existing energy that's constantly there. And at first that's weird, but eventually, my kitty's at the door. Eventually creation comes back and rekeys him, so he's not that bad and he's more approachable. But that's pretty much where the story ends. Obviously the mist is rescinded and all the spawns are either set loose or set free. So either if they were mortal at one point, their souls are released. If they're actual spawns, they're allowed to just become regular old animals and they're no longer attached to the void, blah blah blah. And she's tearing apart my freaking door frame, and as soon as I open that door, she's gonna come in and like put her ass all over the microphone. So we got way off topic. How far away from that? Oh, we're almost at the end. Okay, let's finish this. Finish this. That's Zuka. She's already torn off part of my door. She's torn off part of my door frame. She's a cat. She's a little cat. She's a little fuzzy gray with light orange, muted orange marks. She's a freaking monster. She has torn off, I shit you not, part of my door frame, and she's out there banging on it for me to let her in. Let's finish this so I can do that. Alright, we're actually going to reword this. We're not going to use Archon here. We're going to use voice. That was her. That was her rank among her people, entirely unique to her and bestowed by me. She's a mortal who has transcended into a state of acute understanding of the void and the energy behind its working. Well, as acute of an understanding as a mortal could have. Basically, she can bend and weave the mist to her will, forming it into crystals and projectiles. That kind of gets it back across a little better. Well, as acute of an understanding as a mortal could have, basically she can bend and weave the mist to her will, forming it into crystals, projectiles, weapons of untold strength. So basically, Sari is, if we're going to talk about the class system that came with the RP, she is pretty much been nailed into the Shard Shaper department. Actually, she is 90%. She is 99% Shard Shaper and like 1% Sigil Weaver. But she doesn't really deal in sigils because she doesn't have eyes, so it's kind of need eyes to do the sigil thing. But she does do the Shard Shaper, so she is. I guys had the idea about the video game or whatever. She would be the Shard Shaper trainer. Obviously, Jaren would be the Audiomancer trainer. Silas wouldn't be anybody's trainer because he doesn't have an affiliation. Daniel would be the Sigil Weaver trainer. Cassidy would be the Spawn Tamer. And the thing about Cassidy that's a little interesting is... Oh, that's a spoiler. Whatever, we already spoiled the entire series. What the heck? Cassidy is a Void Lord. And the fact that she's practicing blood magic is, interesting. Because Spawn Taming falls under... Oh, no, that is Void... Never mind, she practices Void magic. So she's a Spawn Tamer. So who does that leave? Sigil Weaver, Shard Shaper. That leaves Engineer and Warden. I guess Silas could be slotted into Warden, but he's really not. Engineer was a character that hasn't been introduced. I'm going to have to introduce another 2 classes at some point, because Arya has to have a class. Or she should represent a class. She doesn't have to have one. Oh, right, Warden was going to be Yulia. Yulia is briefly introduced at the end of the next chapter. She's a Cataxian who's very close to Sari. So really, that relieves the engineer, and an engineer was gonna be, I forgot what his name was. I think I was actually gonna bring back Nico, and Foreman Nico would be or Foreman Valentinez was going to be the engineer. And basically, there was a whole plot where, eventually, somewhere along the line, Silas and Kytax get split. That's canon no matter what. They get split up, and they have to either find their way to put themselves, but not split up. They get split out of into two separate bodies. And that happens because, oh my god, okay. So there's another Void Lord who decides that they're going to get involved and get praise because Harks isn't doing his job, so they're going to come and do Harks' job and get all the praise from Father. Father doesn't give a shit either way, but they don't know that. They seem to think he cares. So this Void Lord sends his Archons. He has 2 Archons. I don't remember his name. Started with an S, I believe, but there are too many S's already, so that's subject to change. Sends his 2 Archons. And basically what happens is Silas kills one of the Archons. And when the other Archon starts freaking out, the relationship was not good. The one Archon was abusive to the other Archon, blah, 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 blah. The Archon who's set free starts panicking, saying, you killed him, that means Blah's gonna come, aka the Void Lord. This was not a very strong Void Lord, even though he was the second brood or something. And so in order to try to hide the evidence, Silas pretty much eats the Archon's core, the dead Archon's core, and says, okay, now he can't find it anymore, it'll be masked by my core. And basically what happened is he's not supposed to eat the cores. He's not supposed to eat the cores. And when the cores interact with each other, he starts having a violent fit, and it forces Kytax to do evasive maneuvers and split them apart. Because if that core got involved with their core, because it's a mortal soul that's been condensed into a core and then corrupted by a Void Lord, so it's very potent, but also kind of like poison. So this doesn't work. They start mutating and they start forming what would be a monolith, but Kytax cuts it off before they have the chance to do that. And a monolith, by the way, is a Void Lord that's merged with a mortal. So the mortal soul that's been solidified into a core, not solidified, but formed into a core, still a mortal soul of sorts. So it basically tried to create a monolith, and a monolith, again, is a merger between a mortal soul and a void soul, which is his core. And when Kytax calls it, he splits them up, and that pisses Silas off, that pisses everybody off, and all of a sudden we see Kytax, how Kytax looks, how he really looks, or how his representation was in the original. And that cues the subplot of, oh shit, Kytax is a genocidal maniac. So, we don't know that yet, now you do, but we start finding out why Kytax was abandoned by the Void and why he's classified as a traitor. And basically it starts questioning whether or not Kytax should be kept around, blah blah blah, and eventually the arc is resolved and we realize Kytax wasn't Kytax when this was happening, so it's okay, he can stay, he's fine. And then he and Silas proceed to try to figure out how they can put themselves back together. And how it goes on from there is basically Kytax and Silas can join and unjoin. Kytax is addicted to being part of Silas, and Silas is pretty much like, I'm ready to be on my own. So that becomes sort of an issue between them. And the worst part, it gets worse when they accidentally get Jaren involved. So now there's a whole 3-way thing, and they form a monolith of sorts. But this is a monolith that's completely under Silas's control. It's not under Kytax, it's not under, they have sort of some psychological input, but most of it comes from Silas. And usually what happens with a monolith is it forms its own thoughts. It becomes kind of an independent being of the 2 beings that put it together, but this is made out of 3 beings, a lord, a spawn, and a mortal. So it's not technically even really a monolith. It just defaults to whoever's mind is the most steeled, I suppose, the strongest mind. And it apparently pinpoints that as Silas because he offers the strongest core to it. So this mega thing becomes basically an extension of Silas as well. And that's well and good, because he means well for the most part. But basically, that starts the whole arc of they're slowly hurting or killing Silas by draining him every time they do that. And at one point he starts like he never says anything, of course, because that's what he does. He doesn't say jack shit. He'll just deal with it, and then it's too late to say anything. But he's in the heat of a conflict. There basically this becomes a regular occurrence. So the three of them get together during the heat of combat. He's like, I can't. We really can't do this. I can't do this. And they're like, no, we have to. We really, really have to. And so they do it, and basically they Jaren and Kaitax kind of force themselves onto him, and he basically has this whole breakdown of, oh, I thought I could trust you, I guess I can't trust you, you guys are all the same, everybody's all the same, blah blah blah. Internal collapse. That leads to a lot of self-discovery on Silas's end, and that might happen sooner than later because he is a fucking mess and he needs more resolution by the end. I think I jumped the shark in the latest chapter. Basically, he was struggling a lot through the past couple chapters, and this is the fifth one that I scheduled. And he's still struggling, but they kind of throw it away for a little bit and say, you know what, let's just do this thing and pretend everything's okay. And that's what they do. And that's not saying it's resolved, because it's not resolved. And like Jaren said, a few chapters ago, don't expect everything to be okay just because part of you is fixed. So there's a lot to be worked through. And eventually we get the Daniel's True Intentions arc, or Daniel's True Feelings arc, or whatever, and that's a mess. But it's all about resolving that too. And all the while, they're still kind of waging war. We still haven't gotten into the conflict yet. A spoiler, may as well spoil this. Emerald Adagio basically covers Cassidy becoming, it vaguely follows the original series in that we're going to pick up Cassidy as a regular member of the crew. And why she's there, what her situation is. And originally I didn't know what to do with her, or why she was alone in that house, and that was going to be written in later, because there was a lot of I don't know why situations going on in the original series. But, I may as well continue it. Spoiler! The third brood consists of Horrocks, the eldest. I've been calling her Zivix, but she can have any name, really. Zivix is the middle, and Kaitax the younger. And when Kaitax, quote, betrays everyone, the third comes under heavy fire, and Father's like, alright, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill y'all. I'm fine. You're all gonna die now. And Horrocks is like, no, wait. We can still be of use. I can still, kill mortals or whatever. We can do it more subtly. No warfare. You don't have to get involved. I'll just go and start, doing what you want. And Father's like, yeah, okay, fine. Continue my rampage. Go ahead. Because he still had the full intention of wiping out mortals. And Horrocks was like, I'll do that for you. And so Father's like, fine, I'll keep your sister, and as long as you do what you're supposed to do, she'll live. As soon as you do what to turn your back on me, I'll kill her. And Horrocks is like, nope. And he jumps out of the void and takes her with him, and she becomes basically what would you call it? She doesn't exist stagnantly. She, every time she moves to a new world, every time Horrocks takes her to a new world, she basically, all of her memories are erased and she starts from scratch. So, the person that is Cassidy is Cassidy. There's no other incarnation of Cassidy. There's Cassidy, who is one of the many faces of Zivix, but Zivix doesn't have a choice. This is just what she's subjected to. Every time she moves, she becomes someone else. And that's why Cassidy, when she becomes aware of herself, says, nope, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere. And she pretty much tells the Void that this is her name now, and you will accept it. And the Void's like, what the hell are you going on about? And Horrocks is like, for the love of shit, my other family members abandoned me now too. But what he did to her was, in every world, and this is part of probably why she loses her memory, is he would brand her, saying that she is protected by him. And basically what he would do is keep mortals away from her. And reminder, Silas isn't mortal, so he's able to approach her pretty consistently. But that also explains why her cookie sales are terrible. He approaches her, and actually we're getting really close to that point. What happened to the original story was that's how we met Quip. Quip was her pet, and she had named Quip. it was kind of an awkwardly introduced thing, and she was originally the spawn tamer type, and the problem was I got them confused. Daniel became the spawn tamer, blah blah blah, whatever, but now she basically is co-opting Quip, and well, he's currently still 9. She will have named him Quip, and basically it was mentioned in the. Did I put it in? I think I put it in the last chapter, the last part of the next chapter. Quip comes back with Quip disappears. He's gone. He's gone missing, or 9 has gone missing, and eventually he's gonna come back with a collar. And the collar's gonna say Quip, and they're gonna be like, "Who the hell is taking care of our spawn?" And so Quip leads Silas to Cassidy, and boom, there we go. That starts that whole plot. Or it's already kind of started because she was talking to him outside the grocery store because she was remarking how his shadow looked like hers, blah, blah, blah. Kaitax nodded. The rank among her people, entirely unique to her and bestowed by me. All that she has become sprouted from the smallest offering of myself to her. She's immortal who has ascended, blah, blah, blah. She once made beautiful sculptures. Once, long ago, she gave up creativity in favor of martial practice. I saw no reason why one should supersede the other, but she decided that things of beauty had no place on a dead world. Her art lines the halls of Katax. Her art still lines the halls of Cataxia. I commanded they be put on display. She was a child then. She was a child in mind then. Child. At heart then. Back then. And I could still somewhat see her creations. When did she go completely blind? Sorry, Kaitax sighed. Sorry is not entirely blind. She sees through her horns, but it's far different than how you see the world. She sees everything through the lens of the void. There was a moment's pause before Silas piped up. This is a lot to take in, Kaitax. The Void Lord nodded. I understand. For now I only ask that you try to get to know Sorry a bit. So I'm moving in like some kind of alien stepdad? Kaitax laughed again. The same booming, echoing noise filled the chamber. No. She would never accept you as such. A friend, perhaps, though I would not push my luck. I merely ask that you find some kind of common ground, something to take the edge off. Again, I ask, what could I possibly have in common with a Void Witch? Far more than you think. And that be the truth. Let's update this. I think I've said it before, but Sorry was originally created as an inverse of Silas. I think this whole thing needs to go. We should probably be checking this on the site. She was originally supposed to be the love interest. She was programmed to be the love interest, which is dumb as fuck. If you want to read the original story, it's up on Patreon. You can read it for $1. Read the whole thing for $1. Basically, it's a novel. It's not perfect. I never went back and really edited it. There'll also be version, oops, wrong one. We can actually close this. Okay. We're gonna update real quick. There's actually, gone. Yes. I understand. What the hell happened up there? Go back, thine wickedness of wickeds. Oh, apparently it's spelled prophecy. Wow. What is with Grammarly? Did I miss all these lines? Or did Grammarly just decide to, like, catch up? Too many Kaitaxes. Marshall? No. Oh, what happened here? I understand. For now, I only ask. Oh, this got coded wrong. Whoops. I don't know. It must have been old. Ugh, there's also a weird space, of course there is. I don't know if I can actually fix that. This might have to stay a weird formatting error. Oh, that wasn't where the error was. Of course it wasn't. I rambled too much. Alien stepdad. Alien stepdad. Oh, it's just... No. This is just colored wrong. Some of that happened when we did the first pass, and I never went back and fixed it. Boom. Fixed. Oh, fuck me. Really? Oh my god. None of his dialogue is actually correct. I guess we're gonna do this real quick. Okay, back to the top. May as well do it now. We're here. Upsetting Kaitax. Let's just go ahead and assume that one's wrong. Whoa. Oh, Lord. Attacks. Oh, that one's okay. She is my family. So this is all a little awkward. This whole chapter could probably use a fresh rewrite completely. What the fuck? Oh, this is past this point. Really? That's all okay? Let me just make... Oh boy, that is pretty far down. Boom! Got it. Found it. I'm just gonna outright assume... Yep. Kaitax calls her his daughter. He should really be calling her his glass. That's a little sexual though, so we're not gonna use that. It's not sexual, it'll just be a weird thing for me to say like that is my female, you know. Oh boy, I have no choice. Oh lord, it's all just fucking invisible. Oh, crap. You done? Did it work? Yes. Okay, Kaitax eye, blah 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 blah. Purple. Ashamed of sorry. This was a very different conversation at some point. Why did I write her being a surprise? There's no way she was a surprise. I had just written the last chapter. As far as I can tell, I didn't take a break or pause the updates, so there was no reason to forget that. Doop on the surface. I could just control F, but I'm not going to. Bringing. Yeah. Oh, that's what I meant to do there. Okay. Comma. Okay. Time is it? 11 o'clock, and I'm living with people again. Who wants to listen to Axel F real quick? Do I have the version? Do I have any non-Crazy Frog versions? Oh, what does this sound? I feel like this can get me fucking demonetized or banned or something. Jibble. Oops, I accidentally turned it off all the way. Oh, that's low. That's the lowest my volume can go. Where do I want to put it where it's not annoying? I don't even know if you can hear it. I don't even know if this was worth doing, but apparently this is what I had in mind. Oh. Starting over. This isn't the version I usually listen to. The other version, the version I have is talking like Crazy Frog, so we don't need that shit. This and popcorn. I don't know if you can. There you go. Fuck it, I want to play the version I have. This isn't bad. In fact, I like this ramp up's pretty good. Are you gonna do anything? Axel F and popcorn are pretty much. I don't know, they were my introduction to electronic shit, so. This isn't bad, but I'm going to turn on the version I was expecting, and it is annoying, but I don't care. It's also less likely to get copy struck or whatever. This is Crazy Frog. It might not be, honestly, because this was, back in LimeWire days, so who the fuck knows what this really is. I learned that one of my favorite versions of popcorn, it's garbage. The quality is garbage. It really is, but I love it. It was not by who it said it was by. Recently, actually. Let's see how fast I get, have I been deplatformed or whatever? Does that even happen with accounts as small as mine? I mean, I'm assuming YouTube's gonna catch on to the fact that I'm playing probably copyrighted music. I don't really know. Let's see, that ramp. Oops. I gotta remember I wrote that. Sorry. Isn't a witch. She's high taxes. Oh, this page is terrible. There's the space. I've put space. There's so much space, and my handwriting is absolutely abysmal. Onward to fixing. I was gonna say something about sorry. Sorry. Now, like I said, in the original, Kitex is a lot colder. And I somewhat missed that, but I don't know how to go back and rewrite him. I don't know if I want to. Because he's soft, but the problem is, he goes south is basically what happens. Instead of starting south and coming up, he starts way down. Why is this still like this? Alright, let's update. Beautiful. So that was just weird spacing. Just checking through to make sure nothing obvious of Kaitax is missing. Nope. I have to share a wall with people. I'm surprised nobody's yelled at me yet. Oh! Oh, you do not understand. You do not under... So I accidentally, oops. Oh. I accidentally created a polyamorous couple. I'm not polyamory myself, technically. No, I'm not polyamory. But it's a three-way relationship. And I'm sure you already can figure out who it's between. Kaitax, Jaren, and Silas. Jaren and Kaitax have a lot of reconciling to do, but they're linked through Silas, and he really just wants them to get along. Kaitax is basically attached to Silas out of a pure addiction of just being not in control, of having a stronger consciousness in control of his existence, and so he's always pining to get back together because that's just how he wants to be. And Jaren is never happy with that situation because A, that's a level of connectedness he can never have with Silas, and B, he doesn't really like Kaitax for a very, very long time. It actually takes a little while for them to start warming up to each other, but... Oh, I still didn't change it. How did I not change it? Did I not update it? Update. Oh, I did change it. I just forgot. So we're gonna... This was already 2 hours, right? Well, YouTube, how long was I... 2 hours. Okay, we're gonna just go ahead and call it. That's page 1 of... Oh, good lord. 2 hours to get through 1 page. Well, I also was talking like way too much. Now, you now have this... If anybody watches this, you now have the entire plot. I probably shouldn't have given away. But by the time anybody watches this, it'll already be on paper. So, I will retain dibs. Also, I'd kill. You know, I mentioned in the video I made about the game that I would love to make a video game. Above all else, I would commit some heinous crimes. Oh. Ba 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 da ba ba ba. Sorry. Sorry. Yay. I really want to make a cartoon, adult style, mature, it's not like adult and sexual, but, oh Christ. Difficult. But I wanted to make I'd love to make a cartoon. I don't know. Either downplay my own ability or something. And I was talking about a shitty popcorn remix. Let's go get that. Let's go get that. No one wants me to play Crazy Frog. That's not part of my library. Nope. I have a couple of unmarked versions of Popcorn. I just want the ones that's... Oh, this is the one. Okay, so this has the wrong... The reason why I found this was the wrong author. Is because I was on a forum looking for different new remixes of Popcorn. It's repeating, Axel F. And this came up as a... somebody made this, but it wasn't made by the people that said they made it. And it is a really shitty version of Popcorn, but... I like it. And, I annoyed my roommates with it by accident because I had my volume up too loud. Back in college, I had my volume up too loud on my headphones, and rather than telling me to turn it down, which, you know, they could have, they just made fun of my music taste. And I'm like, guys, just tell me to turn it down. I didn't realize it was that loud, honestly. So now I always check my volume. So this is Popcorn Radio Edit by SM&H, and it's not by SM&H as far as I know. By some rando who just titled it that, or what? Did they say it was Prodigy or something? Not Prodigy, Paragon? I forgot. It was named who made this. And like this version is the only version I know of, and it's got all kinds of blips and bloops in it, so. It is what it is. If I could find a better version, I'd take a better version. Hope y'all like purple and gray, because that's what this chapter is. It looks like there should be a space there. As for seat loop, I gotta pee. No, there's a space there. It's just the cue. Oi, oi, oi. I don't think Silas would say that. I accidentally brought his accent back up in the current chapter. Or I might have to sit down with my Glasgow friend and ask her to, like, help me accent proof his dialogue. Because I believe that's the accent he has. I was going to write him again to have a Cockney accent, but I don't have exactly a good resource for that. So he's probably going to get the Glasgow treatment. And, I think that's fine. I've realized more people than I thought were from Glasgow, or more people whose voices I recognize from Glasgow than I originally thought. Actually, here, we're already doing stupid shit. Here's Silas's voice. I'm afraid to bring up. Oh well, no, I'm bringing up the Taxi's YouTube. Nothing scary there. Oh, can I bring it up while I'm streaming? Obviously, I can. I think. Will it fuck up my stream? Seems to think it's okay. Oh, this is... Oh, yeah, second mass, whatever. Why the hell am I being recommended Penguin Zero on here? Or Critical. I've never watched Critical in Sicamp before. I get the ASMR, I accidentally watched this ASMR. Oh, I accidentally watched Titanic. Did I really watch? I watched live thinking of the Titanic on the business account. That's cool. Don't know what this is. I know what this is. I must have accidentally watched one of those at some point. I must have accidentally segued between my two channels with Critical playing. The news sucks. Anyway, voice actor's name is Robin Atkin Downs. And here, let me just pause you. SM&H. Papa de Corn. Oh, speaking of Papa de Corn, the Swedish Chef version from Sesame Street is fucking awesome. Oh, that means I gotta turn on my... Let's make sure this is the right thing first. Not this. That's funny. Do they have the cutscene version? There it is. Okay, so... he has actually two voices, and it's a weird... Okay, first of all, I love Saints Row, and I have written several dissertations on why it's a work of art, story-wise. I'm sure other people appreciate it, but I'm the lunatic that wrote 2 or 3 papers on it. Never sent them anywhere, dealing with them. But, yeah, and... Yeah, so basically, the genesis of Silas was... Ooh, can I find that? Ooh. You're not gonna see my Steam profile. That's okay. Oh, what's going on with, Oh, it's just saying it's recording. There's a little red light on OBS. I'm like, what the heck is wrong? I'll turn that on in a minute, but let me open my Steam profile. Oh my lord, I don't know how to do this. Community, I guess. Risk of Rain everywhere, because that's all I've been playing lately when I have time. A little bit of WoW, but... Ooh. Fine. Go to my profile, dang it. Profile. You know you can't see it. 73 screenshots. Aw, poop. I had 69 for the longest time. Oh, I took pictures of my Kuvalich. I got a good one this time. He's still up, actually. What was his name? Rook Kovapoga. He was born out of a... I was trying to get the fire. Oh, this is from Warframe. Game, free. MMO, kind of. Not MMO. Yeah, I guess it's an MMO. Sort of. It's like a hub world, sort of dungeon-y, crawlery thing. You do missions and you... whatever. It's got a nice Eldritch Lore-ish tinge to it, and I enjoy it. And my brother and I play it every once in a while for like nonstop for like a few weeks, and then we just drop it. He was born out of a Volt, which means he should drop a Volt ephemera if he's going to drop one, but he's not going to because he doesn't have an ephemera on him. But anyway, that was my Kuvalich, and I have actually a picture of my first one. Han Farak. Yeah, it took me months to hunt her down too, because that was boring. Anyway, yeah, here's the embarrassing thing. I've actually shown somebody this before. I was talking to a friend of mine about character references, and I'm like, well, mine came from a fucking video game. Oh my god, I actually did swap his hair. Okay, hey, I figured something was gonna change. A lot of things changed, actually. He doesn't look much like this anymore. He's not in my head space, but... Alright, let's see if I can get this open on my browser. Current visibility hidden. Only visible by you. So that's not gonna work, is it? Oh, I can just download it. This is a lot of work to, It's gonna make me log in it. Yeah, I can't show it. Yeah, it's okay. He's been around. But this was the first time now it's talked about. I should probably really try to find a way to show it. I can log into Steam on my browser, maybe. It's okay, suffice it to say, Silas is loosely based on my Saints Row character. He was once tightly based on him, but he's kind of evolved into his own thing. Thank God. No, he was never a fanfic, though. Never at any point was he a fanfic. He was always just based loosely on. But, here we go. Let's, hear a few minutes of this. And now that I'm listening to it without context, it's very kind of weird. Oh, what do the comments say? I wish I had this voice. Yeah. 4 years ago. Oh, wait, hold on. Are they really? They're remastering Saints Row 3. It's an interesting choice. I would have thought they would have done the second. The second needs an overhaul a bit more than the third does. But that means they probably have a new engine. Epic Game Store. Fuck you. I'm married to this series. Wait, this is... Hold on. Let's put some volume on. I can't even hear anything. Oh. There's no sound. Oh, wow. Whoa, back it up. Oh, crap. It is on here. Ooh, dynamic lighting, or whatever. Ooh, solar glares. Oh, yeah. Characters don't look much different. I mean, the environment looks a little prettier. How did we get here? I guess I'm doing a reaction now. Show me the fucking characters. I know it's literally like fucking 30 deals. Oh no. Oh, they look pretty much the same. The environment looks nice though. Lighting's nice. All this says to me is that I'm getting a new Saints Row game, and that means Robin Atkin's voice is going to be in it, because I'm sure they're just using the original voices. This wasn't helpful, but yeah, okay, they're remastering it. It looks fine. $40. Is it on Steam? Please don't tell me it's an exclusive. I don't want to buy it through Epic. I'm one of those people. Fine. Tell me, Volition. Oh, you son of a bitch. What? How did I not unlock something in Saints Row? Oh, it's just cosmetics. It's not going to be on Steam now, is it? No, well, I guess I don't have to play the game for the 15th time. May 22nd. It's out. Nope, doesn't look like it's going to be on Steam. PC Gamer, I'm going to assume they know what's up. And it tells me that Saints Row 5 might be something else. My only concern is that they... Fuck. Oh, May. It's not May. It's April. I don't want to give Epic any fucking money. Then again, most... Looks like I'm gonna have to shell out $40 to Epic at some point. I own this game on the Switch, too. I own the original for Xbox. I don't even own an Xbox. I could play it on a PS4. How did we get here? Oh, because I was going to do this. Anyway, brace yourselves and,
I was supposed to have a quiet night in. The Morningstar wants to repurchase our little tarts. Oh, well, down, kitty. Yeah, right on. That's what I like to hear. You ever been to one of these clubs? All right, what the hell's going on? Is Shawnee in all this? I thought there was a police station around here. Back in the bird. We're going after Kilbane. Bad connection. We need to know where he is. Come on, everyone out. You want me to go with you? So he's someone new.
Is this every voice line?
Wonderful. I don't know what it means, but maybe I can find out. Hold on, Oleg. Anything we can use? Good day, mate. How's the supply? Shut your goddamn mouth. Not getting much here. God, can't this guy go faster?
Also known as the Team Fortress 2 medic. I might be his more popular role, honestly. But yeah, you get the gist of it. It's a lot less growly in my mind, but that's the voice. The magical voice to Silas. It's not here. It must be in the fourth, but he speaks a lot lighter and a lot less growlier in cutscenes. And I could have sworn some of those were out of the cutscenes, but there's a very clear difference between in-game sound and cutscene sounds. Well, his voice levels. I like this voice for a lot of reasons. One, it just sounds great. Two, he's got a lot of good quippies that I really enjoy, and the only other character in Saints Row 3 I really liked playing was female voice 3, the Russian one. She was a blast. She was a lot of fun. She's actually the first character I made. I made him, I forgot at some point, but and that's the gist of it. But I originally wrote Silas in the original version, trying to copy the cadence in that dialogue, and I'm like, I remember, fun factoid, it's kind of weird, I was getting upset. This is so dumb. I was actually studying the voice pattern, studying everything about it, because I wanted to emulate it and stuff like that. And I went out to the wiki, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna read some shit real quick. Actually, it was really unrelated, but I ended up getting to the MV3, voice 3. So, like, he's not really English because he says Z. He doesn't say Z, and I thought that was kind of weird, but it's just there's a scene towards the end. Actually, there's a scene towards the end of the game. Maybe I'll stream playing it. You know what? Fuck, I'm gonna stream playing Saints Row 3 because I'll do it on easy too. Because actually, easy's fucking easy. This game's hard is like. Actually, I shouldn't be saying that because I might suck now. But back when I did play it, I played it on hard just because nothing else felt like a challenge. So I don't know. Fuck it. I'm gonna stream myself playing Saints Row. What's today? Saturday? Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. What the fuck? Why not? Blah. Maybe not start to finish. Just whatever. But anyway, I guess May 22nd I'm gonna have to throw money at I won't get it because that's gonna require a whole different video with an audience not here to read my story. But I want to go off on why Saints Row the Third was a good direction for this series. A lot of people don't feel it was. The second was fucking gold, though. Okay, but of course, as many see it, it was not. It was not as close. It was not as close to a clone as GTA as many people would think. But it still had that shadow over it. And what the third did was like this action comedy action, whatever. It kind of put it on a visually different, I believe. I played GTA, visually different engine, and it just didn't even shoehorn it. Just kind of because the humor was already there. It's not like it was new. It just kind of took it to an extreme. And I also have a reason why the fourth is actually a very good game. Gameplay wise, no. Story wise, very, very good game. So, I might get into that at some point because this is honestly, people have fandoms, they have this, they have that. There's only one thing in this world that I am a fan of and that I will fucking do ludicrous shit for, and that's this series. Don't ask why. I don't know why, but this is my reality. You got people, fans of real things like Disney movies or Marvel Universe, and I'm like, Saints Row until I die. So anyway, yeah, that's, blocking you for fighting, yeah, fuck you, Polygon. Actually, you're not the worst. That's okay, I don't care. Shopping. Get Polygon merch. Cyberpunk 2077. When is that even going to come out now? I really want to play that too. Cyberpunk. Yeah, when's that happening? I know it was supposed to release sometime this year. Oh, still saying September 2020. I hope for that because I want to play that game. Actually, two games I was excited about was it Outer Worlds and Cyberpunk. I tried to play. I rented Xbox or something to play Outer Worlds or whatever Microsoft was doing. Couldn't play it on my old computer. Haven't bothered trying to reinstall it on here. But unpopular opinion, I like watching other people play those kind of games. I myself don't much like playing them. I guess that might be weird considering I was somebody who I kind of, the only reason why I stopped playing Skyrim was because my mods, I'd keep losing my mods or something would happen, I'd have to reinstall it or some shit, and that kind of set me back because I never kept a mod list. I didn't even do what I was doing. I got tired of reinstalling mods, so I kind of quit Skyrim. But when it first came out, I was probably one of the people clocking like hundreds of hours in it, so I don't think I hit 1,000. But I like Skyrim. I love the Elder Scrolls series. I really do. I kind of skipped Oblivion. I played Morrowind to death. I went back to see if it was a good game. It's not. It's hard. The story still is amazing, but it is a ludicrously weird, complicated RPG. And I want that one to be remastered. I don't want Elder Scrolls 6. I want Morrowind remastered. But as far as I'm concerned, they're probably saying that the version that um, the MMO did, Elder Scrolls Online, they did a Morrowind incarnation. It's good, it's fine, but it's not the Nerevar plot, and that's all I fucking want is the Nerevar plot. I want to do the Dagathur thing, and I want to see it in modern graphics. I'd kill for that, and I think there's actually an independent group working on that. But, I mean, these people should be getting money, and I can't afford to pay them. It's kind of like I want to remaster, completely separate, I want a remastering of Omicron the Nomad Soul, but God forbid Quantic Dream does anything useful with their existence. That's David Cage, right? David Cage, yeah. I don't know when Quantic Dream went to shit. Wasn't Quantum Dream? No, that was Core Studios. Sorry. I thought Quantic Dream had something to do with the other Tomb Raider, but that was Core. Core had to do with something else. Did Core have to do with MechWarrior? Speaking of MechWarrior, what happened to that franchise? I fucking loved MechWarrior 3. MechWarrior 2 was my... I watched somebody play MechWarrior 1. I got in on MechWarrior 2. That was my existence for a very long time. And then when 3 came out with the mouse movable reticle, oh lord, I was happy. Then 4 sucked. I don't know what happened. Mech Commander was okay. It was top down. Command your forces type. I'm not really a big fan of those, but it was MechWarrior Universe, so. I used to read the fiction. I used to know that universe very, very well. Oh god. I used to be able to name all the mechs and their different names based on which faction they were from or whatever, which clan. Kill me now. But, I don't know if many people, I think more people than I think know, but yeah, here, Nomad Soul. They call it the Nomad Soul, but I remember getting this in, paper, CD, cardboard case or whatever. Actually, I think it came in one of the triangle boxes. Did Omicron come in a triangle box? Something tells me it might have. No, that wasn't how I got it. I didn't get it in a jewel case. No, it wasn't in a jewel case. It was definitely official packaging. That looks like the disc I had, though. No, it was definitely in paper. Cardboard or whatever. The foldable. Is Quantic Dream ever in league with Core? Like, I want to just look that up real quick. Oh, Nomad Soul. David Cage, Quantic Dream. Eidos Interactive. There we go. Okay. So Eidos was why... Okay, Eidos is why I have Quantic Dream and Core Studios meshed, because Eidos, I believe, published both. Eidos, whatever. And I do believe this one was in one of those classic triangle boxes. Let me look that up real quick. Triangle box. Hey. No? What? Yeah, it's David Bowie wrote this game. That might be the box I got. My dad bought it for me. Mom wasn't unpleased. Mom was never pleased, but... real quick, though. Tomb Raider 2 is another game I spent... There, yep, okay, there. That is the triangle box. So, this is this weird thing Eidos did, where they made triangle boxes. Their games came in... Well, they're not really triangles, they're more, trapezoidal. But, look at this. Look how cool that is. Games don't even come in boxes anymore, do they? But this is cool. We had the Tomb Raider 2 one for a long time. I'm not sure what happened with it. Probably got mashed. Also, our Tomb Raider 2 was not in a jewel case, I believe. I believe it was actually in, again, cardboard floppy. gold. The gold. Tomb Raider 3 was really good, and Tomb Raider 3 Gold was even fucking better. Oh, here we go. That is a shitty small picture. Yeah, we had the blue box. The trilogy. God, I loved old Lara. She fucking was inspirational. I loved her. Wait, did Tomb Raider 4 really? 5? 5. Anyway, we got way off topic. But Nomad's Soul is David Bowie's game. And he actually did the music for it. Wrote the story. Pretty much set the universe and nailed down the aesthetic. He's actually 2 characters in the series. He's the leader of a band. I think that's the guy. I'm not 100% sure. He's leader of a band. And he's also the AI boss. Who runs the universe, or the city? What is this? The planet of Phaon suffered either nuclear winter or something like that, and the survivors were put under a dome. And I believe the city's divided into 4 or 5 categories, and those categories you're not allowed to mix or mesh. They're completely different, like, cultures, and I think they're almost different, like, subspecies of humans. But the gist of the story is it's kind of adorable. Oh, there it is, the triangle box. It's kind of adorable because look at these graphics. I mean, I don't want the triangle box anymore. I mean, look at this. But the thing is the main you're the main character. There is no actual main character, but the first character you get to play is Kale, and he like pops up in your computer screen, and he's like, I need your help. You are the one. Blah, blah, blah. Here, use my body. Conquer evil. Blah, blah, blah. You're with him for a long time, actually. Eventually, he has to die or some shit. And you have to move on to a new body. And you're forced into a new body. And that's when you first get that mechanic. And then you can start choosing where you go. But, maybe if I can get that running, that's another game I'd love to stream playing. Because I have it on Steam, but something tells me it's not one that I'll just play. Or, because I was trying to stream like Tomb Raider and whatever. I have Omicron here somewhere. Psychonauts! Here we're getting a second. I'm so excited! Omicron. What the cola? I love this game so much. I love this game. I like the dystopian aesthetic. Kind of why I like Blade Runner. Oh, Monster Hunter was trying to update. That's fine. I don't even own the expansion. Oh, you can't see my Steam. That's why you're not missing much. Only 46 hours on Saints Row 2. That's not right. These are not right. Only 145 hours in the 3rd? I don't even have all the achievements. For somebody who loves the series, I suck at achievements. What am I actually Oh, I'm not missing that much. That I could do. I hate the Genki Bowl. This is all expansion shit. Thank God. I don't feel that bad. I only played the expansions for the story. I didn't really play with it for any other one. Why are these shiny? Find all collectibles. Damn right. I think Paul helped me with that. My brother. I accidentally doxed my brother. Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, Skyrim, Dark Souls. No, for real, Dark Souls is actually a really easy game. It's all about patterns, and that's the best part, is once somebody like me who loves patterns, everything is telegraphed. You don't have to have enough time, but once you do see it enough and die enough, you start recognizing the telegraphing. I think it's actually, I've had fun. It's challenging to an extent. But I always hit a point in the game where it's like, okay, knock it down. Like, I played it again with my brother. We played the 3rd. Is that one on Fume Night? Whatever. I think that's the one with the Fume Night expansion. And my brother was like, let's do let's do the expansion. I'm like, no, I don't, because I had like nightmares, because the last time we played the game, we actually got stymied on all the expansions on like their first bosses. And it's funny, we actually killed the scholar of the first sin or whatever. Was this second? I don't know which Dark Souls this was. I'm so sorry. We actually did the scholar boss this time. I don't remember doing it. Maybe I'm a little confused. But anyway, we went, the bosses started falling over leaves. We went into kill Fume Knight. We're like, okay, well, this is the parry boss. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. I just fucking stood there flinging dark magic at him. And we would just both roll out of his way. And I remember the arena being a lot smaller, but it is not that small. It was, oh, good lord, it was so easy. I think it took us 2 shots. And that was something I was honestly worried about. So anyway, this is No Crawl in the Nomad Soul. This is a game I'd love to see remade at some point. Probably never will. I don't know why they're remaking Saints Row 3. It would be so much better if they did Saints Row 2, but I think there might be some kind of legality behind that. That might not be kosher. I'd love it if they redid Saints Row 1, because I didn't get far into that, because that was only on Xbox, and I don't own an Xbox. I was just borrowing one. Wait, can we find that line?
Quiet-ish? If you were from Stillwater, you'd be used to this. Just my way of taking a test drive. You, off now! Bikes are the dog's bollocks. Time to start the stunt riding. Well, this could have been a lovely bike. Not sure about these handlebars. Can't wait to start running the lanes. Helmet, yeah, funny. Yeah. Beautiful machine. Boy, can't beat a good bike. Get your ass off my bike! Yes? How come I always do the heavy lifting? Just worry about yourself. I'll get the codes. And now the grand finale. Angel, come on, Z. Time to mount a rescue. No such thing as too many bullets. Which? Is that the best you can muster, Cyrus? I'm fucking unbeatable. That could be arranged. Kinsey.
Goodbye. What was I gonna say? What's great about that series is I really don't know from the perspective of the other voices, because they all play it slightly differently. The reason why I like the third is because he kind of plays up his, especially in the fourth, he plays up his sort of doltishness. He's not actually that dumb. He just plays himself so that everybody else looks better. It's awesome. But we came here for the Cataxians, and this got way off target. But now you know a little bit more about the Cataxian lore. You now know the entire plot. You know now more about where Silas came from. And honestly, the character I play is almost the default character, but with a lot of minor modding to his face and body. It's not quite the default character. I realize it's pretty damn close. But, it's not bad. I'll stream it. I wonder if I can pull him down off the, let me just, this is Corel. Video title cards. Oh, tomorrow I'll be releasing Warden, the Warden class bio. They're only about a minute long, minute and a half. First one was like a minute and 20 seconds. This one was closer to a minute and a half. They're short. You should check them out. Consider liking and subscribing the channel, or liking this stream. And oh crap, well, there you go. Wait, you can see my notepad? No, you can't. Huh. Well, I just accidentally closed the wrong screen, so I meant to close Audacity. I should keep that open for now. Corel, go home. You've been open for too long. And yes, I am one of those Corel people. A unicorn, if I may say. I'm just used to it at this point. I could probably learn Adobe, but when I was with my friend and she uses the Adobe suites, I was watching her do things, and I'm like, wait, it's really that complicated to do that? And she's like, well, maybe there's a shortcut, but I don't know. And I'm like, wait, hold on, wait. And then lo and behold, there really wasn't, and I could quick key like 90% of everything I do in Corel. So I'm like, how is Corel more How's Corel easier than Adobe, but it fucking lost the graphics war? I mean, it did. It fucking lost. They were the hot shit back in the early days. Now they ain't. Now they're not. I don't know who their target audience is. Me? I know the industry I used to work in used them. I don't know how that happened. I guess they were easily translated into the machinery. I don't know. As far as I know, that was really the only industry that uses Corel. So I don't know who uses Corel. But I do. And I grew up on Paint Shop or whatever. I believe I have a newer version. I pretty much own most of their programs at this point. Problem is, as soon as I buy their programs, they come up with a new one, and I'm like, fuck you. I'm not buying it. Like, I have the Draw Suite. I have 2018. That works. They're trying to sell me 2020, or they were trying to sell me 2019, and I'm like, go look it up, and I see that it's broken as fuck. I'm like, no, I'm not buying a new version that's broken. I'm fine with what I have. Okay, so I'm going to stream Saints Row the 3rd. I'll probably stream Saints Row the 4th because I personally adore that game. And I'll do the Christmas expansion even though it's not Christmas. Because that one's kind of important. Or add-on, it's not really expansion. Yeah, so that's that. We'll, actually what I'll do is, I'll stream Saints Row 3, and when the new one comes out, we can just do a comparison. So, that'll be fun. That'll add some allure, maybe. Trying to figure out more hooks to get people in to check out the story. So, honestly, maybe I should just start displaying my love of Saints Row, and that might help. Because, holy shit. Anyway, this was supposed to end like an hour ago or something like that. There's nobody even in chat, right? I'm all alone. Yeah, I'm just in here talking to myself. Hey man, that's cool. So, this stream is unnecessarily long. So, I'm not even gonna edit it. I'm just gonna upload this version. Maybe I'll go back and edit this one at some point and cut it down a little. Forget it, whatever. Alright. Turn off that. Yep, no more computer sounds for you. And, we didn't get to finish listening to my shitty version of, Popcorn. Aww. Maybe next time. Alrighty. I'm yawning, but I'm gonna go pee and then probably fucking get on WoW or something for a few minutes. I like the looks of the new expansion. I can't go into this, but I like the looks of the new expansion. I really, really, really do. And I want to level the Cultiran. I just don't know what class I want it to be. Right now I'm co-leveling a Druid, a Priest, and a Dark Knight. And I'm like, a Death Knight. I'm like, I don't know which one I actually want to play. I fucking love Death Knights. I love Frost's spec. I loved Blood when it first came out. Back when nobody knew what spec did what. I was like, Blood's the tank one. And everybody's like, no, it's Frost. I'm like, oh, it's Blood. Blood's the tank. And then they eventually just officially said Blood's the tank. And I'm like, yes, I was right. Fuck you all. But everybody's like, no, Frost tank. I'm like, no, Blood tank. Whatever. Frost is my favorite DPS spec. I have fun playing it. I don't have a DPS meter anymore, so I don't know if I actually play it well. But I'm also liking Discipline Priest healing. And I liked my Druid, but man, oh man, those heals don't feel strong. And I only want to heal. I don't really want to play Boom Turkey. I would tank, but I don't know how any of the dungeons are laid out anymore. And the way they like drop you in at weird points and different times, and I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do here. I don't know. I don't remember. I used to know these dungeons like the back of my hand. I don't anymore. There's a motorcycle outside. Yup. That was a motorcycle. Nope. A hot rod of some kind. Some kind of car with a loud, obnoxious fucking... Anyway, I gotta go pee. Good night.